My name's Alyssa Cotten, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. Today we're going to talk about 5 ways to manage your post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD symptoms, as we're getting more information about the coronavirus. If that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, consider subscribing. I talk about mental health, self-help, and motivation. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 ways to manage your PTSD symptoms as we get more information about the coronavirus. So you're probably wondering, what does PTSD have to do with the coronavirus? Well, a lot of our trauma comes from lack of control of things that have happened to us. Whether we had a near-death experience, an assault, an attack, unable to have resources for food, shelter, clothing, and things in our environment can really trigger our PTSD symptoms to have us do negative coping skills. And learning more information about the coronavirus can be a huge trigger in the PTSD symptoms to come to surface. So tip number 1 in managing your PTSD symptoms is identifying when you feel triggered. Did somebody say something? Was there an article you read that totally activated you? Was it something someone said? Is it a fear of people targeting one population or one area that's really having you feel fear? And with triggers, those are things we can't control. Triggers are things that happen to us. They're events, people, places, things. We have no control over our triggers, but we can control what we do once we've identified that we feel triggered. So first, step 1, identifying your trigger, and then do some healthy coping skills that allow you to feel in control and self-soothe to manage those PTSD symptoms. Tip number 2 is reach out for help. Reach out for support. Whether you're in counseling or you're not in counseling, maybe you seek a professional provider to kind of help you manage, talk through some of those symptoms, to do some of that trauma work that kind of gets resurfaced as you're finding out more information with the virus. Reach out to your friends and family and say, hey, I'm kind of struggling. I just feel maybe charged, or I'm just feeling a certain kind of way as I'm getting more information. Maybe I'm feeling more fear, or maybe I'm feeling kind of this like doom and gloom terror, and I just need I need some support. So reach out, talk to your coworkers, talk to your friends, your family, your loved ones, your partners, talk to them about it and reach out. You don't have to do this alone. You can get resources, whether it's an online group. There's plenty of support groups that you can find either in the community or online to kind of help you talk through some of the struggles that you're experiencing. So reach out, don't do this alone. Tip number 3 is identifying your trauma response. Now that you've identified that you've been triggered and you're ready to reach out, ask yourself, what is your natural trauma response? And back in the day, there used to be 2 types of trauma responses. It was either fight or flight, which would mean you run away or you attack. And as more research has come out, we've actually know that there's 5 different types of trauma responses that we experience as we get triggered, and I'm gonna go over those 5 today. The first one is fight, and this is where we see maybe you're not physically fighting, maybe you are, but maybe you start to feel angry or judgmental or mistrustful. Those are all signs of wanting this internal fight, kind of want to be combative, more irritated, more short-tempered. Those are all signs and symptoms that your trauma response is to fight. Another trauma response is the flight, which is kind of escape. This might feel like you want to avoid, maybe you're feeling ambivalent, maybe you want to isolate, kind of just run away and hide from the situation. The third one is freeze, and not freeze in the sense that you're frozen, but freeze in the sense of like fear, like kind of shaking. Maybe you might experience more anxiety, kind of panic, uneasy, unable to commit, very indecisive. Those are all symptoms of that trauma response of freeze. Next one is shame or submit, and this is where we can see more depression symptoms, more of the I have to be the good girl, the good boy, have to be the caretaker, more passive, more withdrawn, maybe even more isolated. This can be seen kind of just like defeated, kind of giving up with daily life. The last one is attach, kind of this cry for help, looking for connection. This can be seen as a lot of self-destructive behaviors, maybe increased sex drive, increased drinking, increased suicidal thoughts, increased self-harm, doing more risky behaviors, all of those attempts to find connection in an unhealthy way. So those are the 5 different trauma responses that you might be seeing right now as you're feeling triggered about learning more about the coronavirus. And I want you to give yourself compassion for whatever trauma response you experience. That's the way your body handles stress, and that's the way your body handles trauma. And when we get triggered, our mind and our body goes back to our traumas, and it has to survive. It has to figure out, how do I get through today? And it does one of those 5 trauma responses in order to manage what's going on in the present moment. So if your body is doing that, great. That means your body is trying its hardest to survive. And you can do really healthy coping skills. You can reach out to recognize what your body is doing and how your body is trying to manage all this information that you're learning about the coronavirus and how it's really activating your PTSD symptoms. Tip number 4, increase the amount of healthy coping skills that you're doing. With trauma responses, the tendency to engage in negative or unhealthy coping skills seem to increase because they work, right? Drinking, it's easy. Doing drugs, it's easy. Engaging in sex when we're not wanting to. All of those behaviors we can see are unhealthy because it allows us to distract just for a brief moment. I challenge you to do some healthy coping skills, put yourself out there and do something different. Whether it is more exercise or you're journaling or you're talking to your counselor about your unhealthy behaviors that you're engaging in, and reminding yourself that I have the choice to do something healthy or unhealthy, so why not choose the healthy coping skill? Comment down below on what are some of your coping skills that you engage in that are really healthy after you've noticed that you felt triggered. The 5th tip for managing your PTSD symptoms as we are noticing more information about the coronavirus is focusing on your basic human needs. And our basic human needs are food, shelter, clothing. And those can really trigger because, as you've noticed going to the grocery store right now, you've probably seen the shelves are empty, right? There's no soap, there's no toilet paper. So how am I supposed to tend to my basic human needs if when I go to the grocery store, the stuff isn't there? So that's where you can go home, figure out what you already have. Do you already have toilet paper? Do you already have food? Do you already have enough clothes to survive, right? And figuring out who you can reach out to. Maybe you have a family member or a friend that says, hey, I need help making a plan to make sure that my basic human needs are taken care of, which is that food, shelter, clothing. And luckily in this day and age, we've got so many resources that we can use to get our needs met. We've got all of the grocery delivery services, we've got the online services that can deliver the stuff, and recognizing that we've got more resources than we did even 20 years ago. So giving yourself a deep breath and reminding yourself that I can tend to my basic human needs and feel safe. So with PTSD symptoms, it's a lack of safety is what really feels when we get triggered. And so bringing back that sense of safety, right back down to our basic needs that we need to survive as humans, which is food, shelter, clothing. And that might seem like, of course I'm going to worry about that. It's different in the sense that we bring our awareness to, I've got food in the fridge, I've got clothing on my back, and I've got shelter. And if I can just focus on those 3 things, the rest can come because I know I feel safe in my environment. And if you don't have those things, reach out to those resources that you can in the community to make sure your basic human needs can get met. So those are the 5 tips for managing your PTSD symptoms. We'll kind of recap right now to go over those. So the first one is identifying your triggers and what that looks like. Number 2 is to reach out, ask for help, reach out for support. Number 3 is identify your trauma response, identify what's going on once you've felt triggered. What does that look like? Number 4 is focus on healthy coping skills. And number 5 is connect to your basic human needs. Comment down below some tips that you do to manage your PTSD symptoms as you're kind of in this place of learning more information and not sure what to do with it. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to learn more information on mental health, self-help, and motivation. I'm Alyssa Cotten. Have a great day.